It's time to get chiseled with Rob Commodari.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Chiseled. And why do we call it Chiseled? Because we're all a work in progress. I'm your host. I'm Rob Commodari. I'm also the author of the book Better Than You Think and co-author of 3 other Amazon best-selling books. But today, our guest, Ron Tite, he's founder and chief strategy officer of Church and State. We're going to get into that in a second here. He's an entrepreneur, speaker, and best-selling author. Ron Tite has been an award-winning writer, creative director, and strategist for some of the world's most respected brands, including DoorDash, Google, Intel, Kraft, Microsoft, Volvo, Walmart, and many others. He's the founder and chief strategy officer of the agency Church and State, host and executive producer of the hit podcast, The Coup, and executive producer of the documentary film Fresh Water, which I want to ask you about too. He has written for television. He's wrote and performed a hit play, created a brand art gallery, published an award-winning comedy book, which I learned not too long ago. He was stand-up for 20 plus years. And for 5 years was the executive producer and host of the award-winning comedy show Monkey Toast. Ron is a best-selling author of 3 books. I've seen him speak a couple times, met him through the Brian Buffini community. Ron, welcome to the show. I know you just published a book about a year ago, 6 months ago, The Purpose of Purpose. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks for having me. So great to be here.
Yeah, this is great. So we were talking offline a little bit. So like you're in marketing and strategizing for businesses and whatnot. So how did you get into comedy and speaking and writing and whatnot? What led you to write 3 books?
Insanity, I think, was what led me to do that. No, I've always really just continued to explore, and constant reinvention, I think, is. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily has to be reinvention where we become whole new people, but I think we're always should be exploring and discovering new things and seeing how that can integrate. I think all those new experiences make us better in whatever it is we do. My speaking made me a better stand-up. My stand-up made me a better speaker. My speaker makes me a better strategist. Strategist makes me a better, it all kind of comes together. I've always just continued to explore.
Did one come first? What was your first interest?
I mean, I lived, talk about a work in progress, grew up really poor, didn't know about careers, in my, for my family, the expectation was you got a job, and some people got better jobs than other people, but you got a job, and it was a blue collar job, and you got that however you got it. And that, again, to me wasn't appealing. For nothing wrong with that line of work. It just, for me, just didn't fulfill me. Even in high school, I just can't see myself in this world. And so I kind of just kept exploring stuff. So as a kid, I loved the craft of comedy. I absolutely loved it. And back when there wasn't a YouTube, back when we were memorizing bits is what we were doing. And so in high school, I got up on stage, did a Bill Cosby kind of thing, because I wanted to experience what it was like to deliver something in front of a crowd. And I was always very comfortable on my feet, Italian, Quebecois family. Stories were, they were just a part of growing up, of people telling stories. So that idea, I think, was always really interesting to me, and that all that kind of stuff surrounding that. So you can see how naturally I explored stand-up, I explored writing, I explored, advertising, creating advertising. All those things are in that story structure.
Yeah, and so it's interesting because, like you said, you grew up poor and you just didn't want that job. You made me think of when I was about 8 or 9 years old. I'm one of 7 kids. We grew up in a 2-bedroom house, 745 square feet. I was at the store with my mom. It was a dime store. That's what they called them back then, right?
Yeah.
And we got a bunch of stuff, and we go to the counter, and the lady rings it up, and she goes, "That'll be so much money." My mom reaches into her bag and pulls out a book of food stamps, and I'm like, we're poor.
Yeah,
we're poor, right? Because
Yeah.
you said you grew up poor. So was that a motivating factor for you when you said, "Hey, I grew up poor, I'm not going to live that life"? Is that what you thought?
In some ways, yeah. It's never been about the chase for money per se, but it certainly I think the priority was like just something that was really interesting. And I just like wanted to explore there was a whole different world, beyond those borders. And I really wanted to explore what was in those worlds. There was a moment though, man, I remember I was in third year university and I was starting a summer job. And but I was starting the summer job like a month in at the university. And so I wouldn't get paid for a month. And so I had that, and my mom had no money. And I had to go into a grocery store. Back then, grocery stores didn't take credit cards.
Right.
So I had to go into a pharmacy that also had some food. And that's where I had to do my shopping because I could buy bread and peanut butter on a credit card, the student credit card that I had, because I had zero, and I mean $0 to my name. And I just remember thinking, I don't ever want to be in this position. Like, I don't want to, not like there was a 401k. It's not like there was I got to take it from my trading account. No, there were $0 available. And I just remember, like, I don't want to reach into my bag and pull out food stamps, like I have to do.
So that's the same thing I felt. I don't want to grow up that way. And like you said, there's no shame in having a job, but you have that entrepreneur spirit. Do you remember your first experience as an entrepreneur? Like, I'll share with you. I remember I was playing baseball, Little League baseball, and we went down to South Carolina for a tournament. I must have been 10 or 11 years old. And I remember buying fireworks down there because they were legal here in Maryland. And I bought them and I brought them back and I sold everything I bought for double what I paid. So that was my first entrepreneurial experience.
Yeah.
Do you remember yours?
Yeah, it's crystal clear. It may not seem entrepreneurial at the time, but I'll tell you the story on this. So I was a paper boy.
So was I.
Back when, you did that. So we're talking 1980. I was a paper boy for a paper called the Oshawa This Week. Now, the Oshawa This Week was this weird paper in that it was voluntary payment. So everybody got the paper. And if you wanted to pay, then that money went to the carrier. And if you didn't want to pay, you didn't have to. You were still going to get the paper because it was just one of those papers that wasn't news. It was just filled with ads and freestanding inserts and stuff. So everybody got the paper. So I was a paper boy in my building, in my apartment building, 126 apartments. The guy before me didn't live in the building. Rough neighborhood. Nobody paid this guy. Nobody knew this kid. Like, nobody paid for this paper. Ronnie Tite from 408 takes over the paper route. I know everybody. I'm in the elevator with them. I go to school with their children. They know my mom.
This is great.
I would go to you'd go to the door and you go, collecting for the Oshawa this week, and they could pay you or not pay you. And so of course they paid me. Of course everybody paid me. I'm Ronnie Tite. The paper looks at this and goes, what is happening? The conversion of not paid to paid on this route went through the roof. And here's the best part. I got awarded Carrier of the Year. And not only was I awarded Carrier of the Year, this is how I found out I was awarded Carrier of the Year and what I got. They took all the carriers on like a whole bunch of school buses to a Blue Jays game. We're in line to get autographs from Roy Lee Jackson and Damaso Garcia at Exhibition Stadium in 1980. They come over to me in the line. They tap me on the shoulder and they go, you've been voted Carrier of the Year. You're going to throw out an opening ceremony pitch.
That's incredible.
I'm 10 years old. And this is such a great lesson, that I think there's two great lessons there. One, people want to do business with people they know, the people they trust, that there's a relationship that goes beyond the transaction, that people are more than willing to part with their money when they like and respect the person who they're transacting with. And then the second thing is like the way that the paper acknowledged it on every level was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. And
now cut to however many 46 years later, I'm actually now doing some consulting work to Toronto Blue Jays. And it's completely come full circle.
That's incredible. And if the audience hasn't figured out yet, you're from Canada, eh? And
Yes,
you're
Oshawa, Ontario is the Flint, Michigan of Canada.
So I'm in Baltimore, Maryland. So I'm an Orioles fan. So we're in the same division here.
Yeah.
And neither one of us is doing well this year.
I'm telling you, Toronto's going to make the playoffs. They just leap past Seattle. I'm sorry, but Baltimore's next year, half game up on us. Just watch out. The Jays are coming.
Well, they just traded Gosman. I couldn't believe that.
I know. It is. It's so weird. Like, because I'm a season ticket holder. I'm going to the game tonight with my 6-year-old. But it's so weird. So now I'm consulting, and working directly with Mark Shapiro, who's the CEO. And I remember, like, the very first meeting we had, I went in and I had to say, I was like, hey, I'm a fan, but that's not my role here. And know that I'm not here to be a fan, but and so I have to take my fan hat off when I walk into the room, because that can cloud your judgment and your bias and stuff. So it's a really, really interesting assignment.
Well, talking about consulting, how did you get into that world, the marketing and strategizing and consulting? How did you get to that?
So, like everybody in this field, I did a phys ed degree. I did a phys ed degree because, again, I didn't know there were careers. I didn't know there was a thing called advertising. I mean, I knew advertising, but I didn't know who worked in that. That's, what? Somebody would have told me I'm a writer. I'm like, get out. Nobody's a writer. Get out of here. I remember my very first concert was Prince, the Purple Rain tour. And I remember a friend coming and saying, a friend who was not from the rough part of town. And she said, I have tickets to Prince. Do you want to go? And I said, people don't go to concerts. They don't do. That's the thing you see in movies. People go to trailer parks, they go to progressive euchre tournaments, and they go to jail. That's where people go. So I didn't know that there was this world. So I loved my phys ed teachers. My Larry Lloyd, Craig Matthew was my wrestling coach for 5-7 years. And I was like, you seem happy. Like, what? How did you do that? And then when I went to, oh, great, I'll do that. So I went and did a phys ed degree. Then I go and I meet everybody. And I see all these people whose parents have done these weird and wonderful things, and the whole world opens up. And I go, oh, I don't need to do that. Again, there's nothing wrong with that career. But there's more out there. I can explore more. So I got a job in the business school, helping executives initially with their lifestyle habits and stuff. Then moved into program management. And then this was the beginning of the web. This is, again, such a great lesson. At the beginning of the web, we're now talking, 90, I was in the business school in 93 to 96. Beginning of the web. Nobody knows about the web. Nobody. There's no benchmarks. There's no, this person's got a ton of experience. Nobody. So I threw myself in. I said, I'm going to help develop the first website for this school of business. Hired a company. That company I started working with, they pulled me in. They said, you need to come work for us. But I knew nothing about the web. It was kind of like when snowboarding, I never skied. Who skis when you're in a rough part of town? I didn't ski. I could never ski. All my friends would go skiing. I don't know how to ski. But when snowboarding came out, I realized nobody knows how to snowboard. I'm going to jump into that. So this kind of the web perspective got me thinking on I had 2 hours more experience than everybody else. And that made me an expert. And so I just kind of that consultative kind of thing started there. And then advertising, we were partners for an agency. And that agency came in and said, do you ever think of working in advertising? And I said, no. I don't even know what you guys do. And that gave me a great lesson. He said, you can be an account person over here if you want. This is what being an account person is. He boiled it down to this. Being an account person in advertising is making a list and checking it off. The only question is, are you smart enough to know what goes on the list? And are you ambitious enough and focused enough to do the thing to check off the items on the list? That's it. And I think that's true for all, there's so many of us where it's not rocket science. We all kind of know what needs to go on the list. And we just need to be inspired and motivated enough to kind of do it, to check it off. So I started there, was doing that kind of account guy thing, then got involved in comedy and was doing stand-up, and I really just wanted those two worlds to meet. And so I moved into the creative department as a writer, and now everything is coming together. I've got the strategy brain from being an account guy. I've got the creative brain from being a stand-up and from being a writer. And all of that just really comes together. And I worked in the business school, so I've got this business content and perspective from some of the best professors in the world. So now when somebody goes, so you're a speaker who's written books, who's funny on stage, it all makes sense. But there was no plan. There was no path. There was no journey. It just being open to new experiences and being curious about it along the way is what landed me in this position.
So you just said a couple key things: open to new experiences and curious along the way. So that's a lot of people they're so tunnel vision, like, right? And open is like, it's almost like a form of surrender. Would you agree with that?
100%.
Yeah. So
well, they think, I mean, to your words, if you think that you're chiseled, if you think that you're a work in progress, then there is no final destination. There's
Right.
no like ever, I've made it. Because the second you think I've made it, well, there's your expiration date and you're done and you're rotting.
Exactly.
You know, you're taken from the shelf. Whereas if you consider yourself a constant work in progress and you're always looking for the next chisel, you're always looking for what else can you reveal from that marble that is yourself? And is it a technology that you're like, wow, I'm experiencing this thing and I just chiseled away a part of my body I didn't even know existed? Is it a new process? Is it opening yourself up to experiences of art and comedy and movies, or like, you know, what is it? And I think it's not enough to be curious about it. You need to explore it and embrace it. And we're going through this now with AI. Like, I mean, have I doubled down? No, I've integrated it into my workday and I'm constantly exploring what does that mean? And I work the process first and then go, okay, how can I make it better? Or what is wrong about this? Opposed to having everything to be perfect before I launch it, or be perfect before I go, okay, now I'm in. So it's not just us as human beings who are works in progress, but all of our processes, depending on whether you're Canadian or
well, the process is the Canadian way.
Yeah. So, you know, my process would be that my process is work in progress. And that I'm always like, how can I integrate this tool? Does that work? Like, oh, no, that doesn't work. Like, what if I did that? So I'm always trying to make it better. That I think is a lifelong journey that comes with failure. And you're like, oh no, I chiseled away a piece and I broke off David's
You can't put
toe.
it back.
You know, like I got to sew that toe back on or something.
So you made me, because I was going to hit that question about failure. So in this process of being open to everything, and part of me, I'm going to ask this question, is from the stand-up, like, are you 100% funny all the time? Is everybody 100% funny all the time? Probably not, right? Okay,
No.
so is not being funny a form of failure in that world?
100%. But it's also, I think the important part is it's not mutually exclusive with innovation. So there are comedians who I would have seen 20, 25 years ago, and they had 20 minutes. And you see them today and they still have the same 20 minutes. And the reason they still have the same 20 minutes is because they know that it's funny and it's guaranteed laughs. And anytime you try a new bit, well, a bit on day 1 isn't the same as a bit on day 300. It's never going to be as funny until you get to, because each bit is a work in progress. You start off with like, oh, there's something funny about it. I don't know what I'm going to try it out, right? I'm going to launch it on stage. And maybe there's something there, maybe there's nothing there. But you need to be able, you know, to use a baseball metaphor, if you want to hit a home run, you got to be willing to strike out. And there are people who just aren't willing to strike out. And so they never hit home runs. They're just bunters. And so in comedy, you can't, because eventually the material is stale, and it's stale for you and it's stale for them. And you're like, you know, hey, did you guys see what Michael Dukakis did the other day? You know, like it just doesn't fly anymore.
Right.
And so you have to be constantly searching out new material. And as you do that, there is the chance that it's going to be a failure.
But you got to be willing to fail.
Yeah, 100%. And so, Rob, when I tell you there is no failure like stand-up failure, there is no soul-destroying, crushing moment where you question your soul and your reason for being, like coming up with a bit in your brain, doing it into a hairbrush in your mirror, and then launching it in front of 100 people, and they don't think it's funny. And you, in your brain, you take a beat to wait for the laugh, and all you hear in the background is like, like it is soul destroying on a level that I hope you never experience.
But you know that can happen.
You know it going in.
Yeah.
And so earlier in your stand-up career, you go home from those gigs and you're like, what am I doing with my life? This is horrible. I'm not funny. It's been a ruse. I've conned everybody. And then as you get more seasoned in your stand-up career, the response, and I would literally tell myself this line. I would repeat this line in my brain. And the line was, that's fascinating. And it was fascinating because then it was like, what? Like, I thought that was really funny, but they don't. That's really fascinating. And when you tell yourself that, then you walk away with a way better attitude, because our gut tells us when we fail, we avoid responsibility. We go, it's not me, it's them.
Mm-hmm.
And a stand-up is like, this crowd sucks. They're not smart enough. They're not good enough. They don't understand my brilliance. If you default to that, you become an angry, bitter person and you never get over it. But if you tell yourself, man, that is fascinating, because everything aligned going into this. I thought this was gold. All my experience, I thought this was gold. What was it? And so sometimes you'll go, oh, it's because I started with it. I can't start with it. They don't know me yet. I got to end with it. Oh, I'm going to try that out. The bit's a work in progress. I'm going to try it. What if I do it there? Oh, they don't know that reference. Like I remember, here's just such a great example of it. I don't remember the actual joke, but it was a bit. Oh, I said something like, my nephew has these great shoes now, and they're like $100, and they got bells, and they got a light that goes off, and they got. I think he floats on these shoes. Like, these shoes are incredible. And he said it's like he's a little Michael Jordan, And then I said, when I was a kid, I felt like I was a little Stephen Hawking, because I had these shoes that So if you know who Stephen Hawking is, that's kind of a funny dark bit.
Yeah.
But it's not brilliantly funny, but it was a bridge to something else. But in the moment, the crowd, I realized they don't know who Stephen Hawking is.
Uh-huh.
So if you don't know who Stephen Hawking is, now I have to explain it. But if I have to explain it, well, now I'm a jerk. Because now I'm going into like, oh, this guy, he had this, he's in a wheelchair. Like, then I'm just a horrible, horrible human being. But in the moment, I went down that road, and then I'm like, I'm done. I've lost this crowd. They think I'm a jerk. And so afterwards, like, now I know where that, I got to know, are they going to know the reference?
And it's interesting. I'll say it's fascinating. What I'm thinking here is, and correct me if I'm wrong, like you trying out these bits in stand-up, is it almost like trying out an idea in business, knowing that it could fail? So is that how it's kind of intertwined for
100%.
you?
Yeah, 100%. Now, I think that what's really interesting is that why I think stand-up is such a pure example of that is that there's one metric in comedy. Either they laughed or they didn't. That's it. There's no but we increased awareness by 10. No, either they laughed or they didn't. That's your only metric. And so that's also really refreshing, because you're like, oh, there are no rules. I don't need to go hold the microphone this way and talk about airplanes and the differences between the genders. As long as they laugh, that's my only metric. I can use a flip chart. I can do a handstand. As long as they laugh. In business, because there's so many different variables, we defend our failure by illuminating metrics that support our bias. So we go, oh, no, it didn't fail, because we got 2 more clicks, or because we, whatever. And so that's again both a pro and a con. The pro on it is like, yeah, sometimes the obvious metric isn't the metric you should be looking at. Sometimes awareness is a good thing, and they didn't click to buy, or you didn't sell the house. But other times, are we just defending our failure?
Yeah. But you almost, like you said it earlier, embrace it, explore and embrace. So it's almost you like I'm hearing like you embrace the fact that, okay, I'm going to try this bit out. I'm going to try this strategy out. It could fail, and I learn from that, and I keep moving forward.
Yeah, it's work in progress. When Chris Rock or whoever, let's say Chris Rock has a Netflix special, he doesn't film it in the first night he's doing that material. He's been touring that material for a year. And he's been tweaking. Even at that moment, the show isn't done. We're just seeing it in that moment of time. It is still, if he continues to do it, he's going to still do some of that material, and that material will evolve. So we're just seeing a work in progress captured in a moment in time.
Yeah.
That's what that work is in that moment. It's going to continue to evolve. It's not a final thing.
Yeah, that's amazing. So where does faith or belief come into play with it? Because you're trying out a bit, you must believe that in your mind, your biased mind, like this is going to make them laugh, and maybe it doesn't, maybe it does. So where does faith, or does it come into play? And if so, where does it come into play with all this?
Yeah, I think the faith is, again, this is what's great about any innovation or any new process, is that it's, what are you having faith in? Are you having faith in the bit's going to work? Well, no, that's not the faith, because the faith is it's going to be okay. The faith is that this is going to be a great experience. And the great experience can be defined by, wow, I got some great insight about a thing that I thought was going to work that didn't work, or wow, it forced me to pivot and I discovered something new on stage, or wow, it was a great experience for me because the bit killed and I absolutely loved there's nothing better than performing a new bit to a crowd that loves it. That's just incredible. But there's always something to learn. There is always an experience. And so the faith is grounded in, it's going to be a good thing. It may not be the thing I thought it was going to be, but it will be a good thing at the end of the day. It will. So
what do you think about the word perceived failure?
Well, perceived failure is when we attach a definition of success onto something prematurely. And so we go, I'm going to launch this thing. I'm going to launch oh my God, what's the service, a staging service, right? I'm a realtor. I'm going to launch a whole new staging service. And whether you want me to do the deal or not, we're going to have a staging service that you can apply. You can buy. And people are going to line up for this. Okay, this is great. And you've put the definition of success on, I'm going to make $100,000 in the first year, or I'm going to get 50 engagements, 50 clients, whatever. And you fail. You don't hit those numbers. But what you do is you build 3 relationships with new stagers, and you realize, I shouldn't be in the staging business. I should just partner with 3 amazing people who can complement my core service. Wow. You would have never been driven to pivot into that direction without the failure. So it's a perceived failure because your initial metric for success was premature. You had equated it to revenue and to number of clients, when in fact, again, like the stand-up thing, this is going to be a learning experience. And it's either going to be a learning experience because I drive revenue and new clients, or it's going to be a learning experience because I'm going to change what I do on a daily basis.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing and explaining it that way, because I talk often at different groups here and there, and everybody talks about trying something else, trying something out, and you either succeed or fail. And I usually put in a framework, either succeed or you have perceived failure, because from that perceived failure, what can you learn?
Yeah, I was in a you may have heard me tell this story, but your listeners may not have. I did a really fun gig in Sarasota for something called The business council was 100 CEOs. Chatham House rules. I can't tell you who was there, but I can tell you what was said. I just can't equate to who it was. And there was somebody in the room who was then CEO, now chair of a very, 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 very large e-commerce company. Have I frozen for you?
Keep talking. You're good.
Okay, there we go. And somebody else, another CEO in the room, said, "How do you embrace failure at your company?" And he said, "We don't. We punish it. It's a huge myth. We don't embrace failure." He said, "We've built 85 distribution centers. I'm sorry, but we should know how to do that by now." So this blanket embrace failure is wrong. But what we do is we experiment a lot. And the sole purpose of an experiment is not what you can do, what you can sell, how you can grow. The sole purpose of an experiment is what can you learn. That's the whole purpose of an experiment. And maybe you go, that failed, we're never doing that again. Or it's like, oh, this opens up something else. That's what it's all about. We can't just blanket embrace failure. We need to embrace experimentation.
Well, you said it, like, what can we learn? Well, that to me goes back to what you said earlier, coming from a place of curiosity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's great. Ron, so going forward here, I'm going to see you in a couple, about a month. I'm going to see you in a month.
Yeah.
You're doing a thing for us in Richmond, Virginia. We got about 100 people or so showing up to that. That's going to be awesome. But going forward, I always ask this question: where do you think God's going to chisel you a little more? Where else does Ron Tite need to be chiseled?
Well, I think that I'm always exploring new stuff, right? Like I'm always exploring new stuff. I'm always working on the next speech. I'm always working on the next book. And in every speech, I have something called the new 2, which is a whole new 2 minutes I've never done before. And because I need the catalyst to go into to pursue something, I need something to force me to pursue something, so that the 2 can become a 5, can become a 10, can become a 30, and then we got a whole new book. It all started as a new 2. So I've got.
You say new 2, you mean 2 minutes worth of stuff? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
2 minutes. Okay.
Yeah. Every speech there's new 2 that I've never done before. Sometimes it's more than that, but certainly every speech there's at least new 2. And I think, that the world reveals to us different parts of our character, and we get challenged and we have to respond to certain things, and we either learn from it and become new people. You don't become entirely new people, but become a different version of ourselves. And part of that is kind of, there's 2 parts. There's a proactive part, which is like, hey, I'm 56. Like, where do I see myself in 10 years? And what are the things I need to do to put those pieces in place so I can achieve that thing? I can't just get there and go like, what? I should have saved money for retirement. You can't do that. So you need to put some proactive steps along the way to get you to your journey. At the same time, you need to spend some money along the way too. Like, you can't just be saving for this eventual thing, because that eventual thing might change. The age of which you retire might change. So you have to react along the way. So I think it's just a constant discovery and being greedy about the things that interest me and that I'm curious about, and exploring them. And those are whole new roads that might take me in completely new, new paths and new journeys. And I just need to be open for them. But there's no preconceived plan of where this all goes.
Well, and I just love your whole temperament here. And I don't feel, and you tell me if you experience this at all, I don't feel any sense of anxiety at all. Do you experience anxiety when you go through these bits, so to speak, these new bits?
No, it's like the stand-up thing. It's like, oh, this is going to be fascinating, whatever it is. I own a business. There's 20 people out there, right? There's 20 people who depend on me to do stuff, so that they can pay their mortgages. So there is a little bit of anxiety that we all have as entrepreneurs who have people responsible to us. And I think if we don't have that, I think then our foot comes off the gas a little bit. Sometimes we need a little bit of that pressure to go like, I can't, but this has to work on some level.
Right.
and I need to get up. I posted a thing on Instagram here where our office is in an old light bulb factory. And this entire area in Toronto is called Liberty Village. And there's that building across the street. It's a carpet factory. These are all old factories that have been converted. And I just find there's something refreshing about coming into an old manufacturing environment where you know that when these were operating, hundreds and hundreds of people showed up every day. They had dirt under their fingernails. They put their hard hat on. They put their construction boots on, and they went to work.
Yeah.
And it was time to get to work. And there's something refreshing, and we all need that kick in the butt to go like, get to work.
Yeah. That's great stuff. That's great. Ron, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that time with us. I know you're short on time here, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in a few weeks. If somebody wanted to get a hold of you or reach out to you in terms of getting involved with your business, how would they reach out to you, get in touch with you?
Just call me at 416 yes Tite. No, that is the number, but it's so weird. You can go to rontite.com. You can go to churchstate.com, or you can just Google me, and I come up in various places. I share a lot of stuff on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active with content there, but yeah, I'm out and about. Just Google me.
There you go. Thank you so much. Hey, Ron, hang tight a second. No pun intended there after you depart here. And but I want to thank everybody for listening. Ron, thanks for being on the show. And until next time, everybody, let's go get chiseled.